Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tuesday evening. It is 9 o'clock. Time for a Tuesday night blether. But first, as always, a little music. Enjoy.
We are all the heirs to Scotland, as a nation proudly stand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let a flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. To the world we bid a welcome in 1,000 different ways. We will toast to long lost friendships as we build our better days. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum. We are all the heroes of Scotland. We're a nation hand in hand. We will march beneath her banners to protect our ancient land. In the glens and cities, there on every street are the living heroes no army will defeat. Let our flag mean freedom and not a battle drum.
Good evening, folks. I hope you're all well after the nice weekend we've had. I hope you've been enjoying some of the weather at least. I spent a fair bit of time at the back of the house over the weekend. I was going to visit my Laura, but she wasn't feeling very well, so I left that out. Sad to say. But anyway, apart from that, nice, quiet weekend. And again, I would like to personally thank anybody who's in the chat tonight who came along to the live stream last night on Sensem's channel. Well, thanks, Scots. Yeah, she has. I don't know what's going on there. Now, I was up there a week ago and we had the same food. We all ate the same food. But as things turned out, I didn't speak to her again until Wednesday. But apparently, soon after I left, Laura went upstairs getting herself ready to go to bed and was suddenly struck by severe diarrhea and vomiting almost at the same time, which is not at all funny. So, when I finally spoke to her on the Wednesday, she was asking me, but I felt a little bit strange on Tuesday, but that was it. So it had nothing to do with the food. So the long and short of it is, folks, I'm not sure what's going on there. Don't like it. To state the obvious, if you're having that kind of experience on a semi-regular basis, it takes your strength away from you. And when you're in your 70s, that's the last thing you can afford. Good evening, Steve. I appreciate the thought. No need to apologise, my friend. Scott's is saying, no, it isn't. Hopefully, it's just the case of change of weather has made her a little run down. Could be that. And obviously, doing my best to encourage her to be sitting round the back of her house, getting a chance to enjoy fresh air and actual sunlight. Good evening, Emma. Packer, good evening to you, sir. Budgie saying, I've got a bad flu just now. Good God. Shivering and sweating at the same time. Sorry to hear that, Budgie. It just seems so out of place with the weather being the way it is. Good evening, Trevor M. I was just thanking anyone in the chat. Good evening, Skywalker. I was just thanking everyone in the chat tonight. Anyone who came along to Sensem's channel last night. I hope you enjoyed the chat. And if you are one of these viewers from last night and you want to take anything further in terms of discussion from last night, I'll be only happy to do my best on it because I'm going to bring it up. I've got a point that I need to make. Oh, he's not talking to me, John. He's talking to Packer. So I'm going to, at least to begin with, I'm going to bring up last night. Now, as I said last night, I'm going to repeat myself. The questions that were asked were so deep that each question, in my opinion, would have needed a stream by itself. So, and I wanted to put the question in a context because I think that it's important to know your enemy. By knowing your enemy, you have a greater chance of success against that enemy, the more you know about that enemy. Ah, well, you did a tremendous job last night, Steve. You know, what I did was I don't see anything when I'm a guest like that. So I don't know what's going on. But what I did was I went to Sensim's channel today and I watched it. And when I saw when I saw the amount of links that you were putting out, I thought, good God, you were working away there like a Trojan horse, I'm telling you. Amazing. So thanks again for that, Steve. That's why you've got such a great reputation, because you take it seriously and you do it properly as well as you can. Scott Sarmar is saying that's one of the great things about Sensum. He always gives you food for thought and something to take away. Has intelligence and a down to earth guy to go with it. Absolutely, Scott Sarmar. I couldn't agree more. I consider Sensum as one of my friends online. Likewise with yourself. But I'm not going to say any more. Don't want to say too much. I've got a lot of friends here online. I feel that. Whether it's reciprocated or not, it's another matter. But no, he's a top rate man, is our sense. And I'll tell you something else. Years ago, he appeared in the chat one night on my channel. And a few days later, I received this very lengthy email from Sensum. And he was giving me personal information about him in order to convince me that he was straightforwardly what he claimed to be. And I was very, very impressed by that he went to that effort to write this. And it was a very lengthy email, I might add. And one of the very first things that endeared me to Sensum, and I've heard this said in many, many movies, but here was Sensum saying it for real. And he was telling the story about his dad. And he said that his dad said to him, I'm doing this so you don't have to. And that had a huge, huge impact on me when he said it. Because it's something that we hear in movies a lot, those lines. And here was a man who had been said to by his loving father, who spent his life down the coal mines. And we've gone on ever since, and I rate him very highly. Well, thank you, Scott. It's always good to know. And that's why I've said many, many times to you all that if regular people on the chat suddenly don't appear, there's an immediate concern, but it's a genuine concern. It's nothing to do with YouTube. And one of the things that I'm not quite pleased, but very pleased about, is that you folks in the chat have done it as well. you've drawn attention to the fact that somebody's not here. And that means enormous amounts to me, because it means that there is a genuine sense of community, or camaraderie at least. And that's why, and you all know this to be true, everyone on our side of the fence who has a channel will say the same things, using their own words, of course. And when we say it, we mean it. It's something that is, I think, very strong and quite miraculous. It kind of borders on a miracle, really, if you think about it. Because none of us, well, that's not quite true in my part. There's a couple of people in the channel that I have met. But if you consider the sense of community, and yet we have never met. So that sense of community is somehow growing, strengthening through the medium of what? I don't think it's the medium of YouTube. I would argue it's through the spirit world that connection's being made. It's a spiritual connection that's being made here, not just here in my channel. That's what I feel, because I've seen people in the chat drawing my attention to certain people not being here. Anglo-Saxon, good evening, sir. And that's why I say it's that, because it's real, at least at my end, and I'm sure at your end, is bordering on the miraculous as far as I'm concerned. Because ask yourself, how does that work? That's not like, John and I were down the pub, in the last 6 months, and every other week we're together in the pub. But no, there's no physical connection between any of us, or few of us. And yet, that really exists. That's miraculous. Parker, John, the two best bits of advice my dad gave me were, wherever you go, don't take a wanker with you, because you can always find one when you get there. And they all fit. Oh, that's excellent, Parker. I like that. Oh, and there's Gaz with us tonight. Good evening, Gaz. Your absence has been noted, sir. So there you go. So yeah, I wanted to just bring up last night the question. And as I said last night, I'll say again, it was important to me to set a context for the question. Was it a valid question in the way that it had been framed? And I felt it necessary to give the question a frame. And I did that. And I gave some examples. And the second example, I won't talk about the first one. The second example I gave was the systematic destruction of the Native American tribes. And over a period of years, there was different things went on to kill as many Indians as possible. And I mentioned that latterly, as things progressed, as the number of Native Americans was below 50%, they were looking for ways to speed all this up. And I said that they deliberately gave out to the Indians who were already living on reservations infected blankets with smallpox. That was what I said. But when I read the chat today on the playback, I noticed that Billy Braggs said that that wasn't true, that never happened. That's why I wanted to bring it up tonight. Now I've got a book up there on my shelf that I was paraphrasing from. And the book is titled How the West Was Won by a Native American, D.D. Brown is his name. Just as I said, as a historical fact, which it is, an American president was the one who coined the phrase, the only good Indian is a dead one. And as far as I'm concerned, and I made this known to my original audience when I first started live streaming, I won't be telling you lies, folks. And what you see is me. I'm not performing. So I'm saying, although he won't hear it because I banned him from this channel, however, it's still important to me to correct this. If he can demonstrate to me, show me a passage from a book or a copy of a document that refutes what was done to essentially eradicate the Native Americans, I want to see it, because I can show him written evidence that it was done. He just may not have ever heard of it and finds it so horrendous it's difficult to believe. And it is, but it's no less believable than what was done to the black men in the South with deliberately giving them syphilis through injections. And just to make the record clear to anyone who wasn't present last night, these were acts committed by Europeans. I use that word deliberately so that I don't have to get Sensim's channel into a fix, and I don't want this channel to get into a fix. So when I say Europeans, I mean that as a mixture of people who went from Europe to what became the USA. And it was the same Europeans who were very important figures in the slave trade. Not so much at the blunt end. They owned the ships, They would hire a captain, he would hire the crew. The merchants in Africa who were buying from the black chiefs were also European, but they were generally of a particular stock of European. And it's certainly a historical fact that the marketplaces were owned and operated by this same European group. And the point I was labouring by going, and then I mentioned another historical fact was the Spanish flu was developed in a USA secret laboratory, injected into young boys going sent into Europe to fight in the First World War. And that's when the disease broke out. I'm not quite sure why it was called the Spanish flu, all the same. And it killed millions of people. And my point was that because of the question, I was labouring the point that what we see going on today is nothing new. So I gave these historical things, but I got a bit hot under the collar when this character, Billy Bragg's blogs, was saying that what I said wasn't true, but it was true. So I've corrected that. I hope, William, you have received my email regarding the movie review for next time. I've chosen the movie, Sensum and Eki. I told them last night after the live stream, and I sent you an email. So if you can let me know if you've got it, but I'll put it up on the screen, shall I? Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll put it up on the screen. It's a Western, William. Great man. And and that's the name of the film, The Gunfighter. So it's easy to find on YouTube. You can find it on that Free Couch Turner channel. That's where I first came across it. There's a colorized version on YouTube, but I'd give that a miss if I were anyone going to watch it. Better than an Eastern, I suppose. It's filled with lots of names that you'll know, folks, if you haven't seen this film. It stars Gregory Peck. I don't think there's anyone blocked, but I'll go and check, Steve. I certainly didn't. Yes. Yeah, I was right. There are no banned individuals. So I have no idea why Don Browning is invisible in the chat. That's as far as what I know what to do. No, it's a duck. Oh, don't tell me they've remade that. Yeah, it'll be the 1950 Gregory Peck black and white Packer. Oh, don't tell me they've remade it. Oh, glory, no. You know they've remade. Well, I'm sure you all know they remade High Noon. Oh, dear oh dear. I don't know how that can happen, Steve. Don't are you out there? I don't know how that works. No idea at all. No, there's a good suggestion from Packer. You try turning it off and on again. Invincible Dawn. Jemima's with us, is she? Jemima, Puddleduck, and Edmund. Edmund on 8-4. Woke High Noon. Oh, if you ever stumble across it, folks, this remake, just leave it alone. I foolishly gave it the 10-minute test. It was a long 10-minute, let me tell you. Terrible. I feel sorry for, well, in a sense, I feel sorry for the actors and everyone involved in such a production. Because rarely, if ever, do any of these remakes ever surpass the original. No matter how flawed the original happens to be. It's a duck. It's a duck. Good evening, it's a duck. Yeah, you and me both, Treble. I can't help. I'm hopeless with technology. Yeah, well, you and me both. Edmund is saying, I call myself that because Edmund 374 is a right B. A right B. So yeah, getting back to that question. Um, so if you find yourself in that conversation about did did the Europeans do dreadful things throughout history, the answer is a resounding yes. And so, with that, I then try to go on and answer the rest of the question. Why then have we allowed bad actors across Western society to turn it into one of competition and resentment? And I didn't answer that as well as I wanted to. Yeah, good evening, Dawn, wherever you are. Skywalker is saying, I think we should have a turn at shouting the movies out. They've been pretty piss, in my humble opinion. I'm sorry to hear that, man, Skywalker. And even the way that we're forced to do it is pretty awful. I wish we had the freedom to show clips. That would be really nice if you could do that. But obviously, you're not allowed to do anything like that. Peeling spuds, says Skywalker. But I think I properly answered the second part of it. We didn't allow anything to happen. When you use trickery, lies, and deceit, you can get a long way on that. If we have any real responsibility to this situation, I would say it's probably complacency in all of us, and not just this present generation, but past ones as well. Because if the general population took a keener interest in what politicians were doing, well, they would be less inclined, in my opinion, the politicians, that is, to get involved in things that are not good for us. But when you've got a complacent population, then it's much easier to do what you want to do and get away with it. And that's where we've all gone wrong. I include myself in that, by the way, and the generation before it, and the one before that. I hear a lot of responses from all over the place that the trouble is that our people are too trusting. See, I would contend that we don't have a monopoly on trust. Other people have trust. If it's put up as an explanation, I think it's a weak one. I think it's much more to do with complacency. And that, if you accept that premise, then that makes so much more sense out of the destruction of social, I wouldn't call them institutions, but social places where ordinary people came together to talk, have drinks, food perhaps, a bit of entertainment, in other words, social clubs and pubs. That's why that had to be attacked and destroyed. Because when you're out and about, being in company forces you to think, not necessarily about politics, but if you're engaging in the company you're with, you're thinking and you're speaking and you're listening. But you don't do that when you're watching telly. You're in a passive mode now. You're all ready to take the info in passively. But that never happens in a social situation with human beings, because people are interacting even although they're not speaking. They're listening and they're watching whoever is speaking. And that's why they were seen as socially dangerous. If you accept that, and that's my view, if you accept that view or you already have that view, then it shouldn't be a surprise that the places that young people went to meet girls or boys had to be destroyed. Because that's your aim. Your aim is to destroy the community, the sense of belonging. I would add, and the sense of responsibility to others outside your blood connections. You see? And just for the record, I'll repeat again that this attack on our social institutions has happened over my lifetime. I've seen that from beginning. Well, hopefully not to the end. We've still got some pubs. So I have been a witness to this change. The change that will stick with the pubs. When I first went into a pub illegally, of course, like the rest of us, to get served, it was only men. All you could hear was a chatter of men, sometimes shouting, usually swearing, thick with cigarette and tobacco from pipes. That was it. No frills. Because the men were there to let off steam and get a bit drunk before they went home for the night. So that had to be changed. And the easiest distraction to bring into a pub is women. Mannequin is saying you have to invest time in a movie. Time is a premium, absolutely. So if you can't feel it, that's about it. Not trying to offend or insult anyone. No, I didn't think you would be, Skywalker. I think you're essentially correct. That's why when my son first put in Netflix, that's what I did. This 10-minute rule. So I'll put a movie on and I'll give it up to 10 minutes, and if I'm not involved, then it goes off. You have to have some rapport with the story that's unfolding. Steve, what's this? You're talking about Dawn, of course. John might not see her being blocked until he's offline. Well, according to the StreamYard software, no one's blocked. No, I'm not. I'm not decrying that one for one moment, Rory. Yeah, absolutely not. What I'm getting at is the destruction of the community spirit and really the introduction of conversations aimed at the women rather than conversations pointed at important matters that are going on, either locally or nationally. That's what I'm saying. When it comes to women, men are very easily distracted, and I'm not excluding myself. So there you go. Nothing wrong with a large, nothing wrong with a large-breasted barmaid, though, John. No, there isn't. But no, Steve, the software says no one's banned. So anyway, and then women's lib, of course. I'm much more concerned, and I'm sure we all are concerned, is what is the remedy? We know what the disease is. We know what it is. It's how do we cure the body politic of the disease? And that's where we should be aiming our present attention, in my view. We need to find some kind of answers, even if they're answers that we can't implement straight away. That's a more productive thing to be thinking about. That's where I try and put my attention, on trying to find solutions, no matter how impractical they may appear, even to me. Because we need somewhere to start. Skywalker's a true feminist. Would you like to come on, Skywalker, and have a chat? Are you not quite ready for that yet? I may not be ready for that. That was maybe a bit cruel, me just jumping like that. Parker, I remember when my dad ran a pub. If my mum was behind the bar, punters were not allowed to swear. Fair enough, but a restriction to the atmosphere also. Well, at least your dad was trying to do something positive there. That's what I say. But it is a form of censorship. Yeah, I like that, Duck. I totally agree with you. Sensum has a good format with a wood stream. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, well, I was noticing that Raymond wasn't here either, myself. Oh, Skywalker has seen him. He was on 42s on Saturday evening. Right. Thanks for that, Skywalker. So, one of these video shot, as always, I'll let it play a couple of times. I hope you haven't seen it.
Porn,
Yes.
people who were sexually exploiting children.
Yes.
And then you were in the parking lot of a school board meeting, taking down the information of parents. What happened to the cases that you were working to protect our communities from the worst predators that exist?
I was told they were not to be resourced, and then after I was suspended, they were handed off to local law enforcement.
Wow. So the FBI just decided it was more important to have you in that parking lot of that school board meeting than getting the worst of the worst away from people that they could harm.
That's correct.
You went after people who looked at child porn,
Yes.
people who were sexually exploiting children.
Yes.
And then you were in the parking lot of a school board meeting, taking down the information of parents. What happened to the cases that you were working to protect our communities from the worst predators that exist?
I was told they were not to be resourced, and then after I was suspended, they were handed off to local law enforcement.
Wow. So the FBI just decided it was more important to have you in that parking lot of that school board meeting than getting the worst of the worst away from people that they could harm.
That's correct.
You went after people who looked at child.
If we needed verification of what we know is going on, huh? Rory, I used to know a landlady who was an ex-weightlifter. She could literally lift 2 kegs of beer up from the cellar and place one of them on the bar one-handed. Jeez. Yeah, well, there you go. Some women, that. Never mind. So yes, I think solutions are what we need. No matter how extreme they might seem, we need solutions that can be used, even if it's only a beginning platform. Now, the other things I wanted to say tonight before I forget is on Friday evening, my friend from Glasgow is coming to visit. So the live stream will start late, 10:30, in fact. Now, if that's too late, don't worry about it. It's just so you know. Don't be here at 9 o'clock on Friday. I'll be still speaking to my friend. So there's that. And the following Friday, believe it or not, is the poetry stream. And again, if you've got anything that you would like to be read aloud, send me an email and include your poem, and it'll be read. Right, so you know already, Duck, the late Friday night stream I saw this week's lineup earlier. Okay, Duck. So that thing actually works. No problem, Skywalker. Yeah, no problem, my friend. Well, that's great, Doc. It's good to hear. I'm just reminding folks, in case it's slipped the memory. I write it down. I've got a calendar here at the side, and I write these things on the calendar so that I don't forget myself. Too easy to forget. So, yeah, back to solutions. It's one of the things that over my lifetime I've noticed that whenever I get into a conversation with anyone about politics, and I do mean throughout my life, the thing that I've always noticed is that without exception, I think, yeah, well, almost without exception, people only talk about what's wrong. They only moan. They only complain about what they see as injustice or something that is wrong that shouldn't be happening. And very rarely you meet anyone who's got any vague idea about how that can be solved. However, I've always been more interested in trying to find solutions to what I see as problems. And it used to be very frustrating for my big pal Jerry, because he always wanted to do the moaning and complaining bit, which was fine. And he was good at it. But much less concerned about trying to find a solution. And as I say, even if the solution that you come up with is harebrained, even to you, at least you can use that as a starting point and make it less harebrained. You're still writing yours. Well, that's good stuff. At least you're working, Duck. That's the thing. You're working there. That means your lyric blocking is perhaps becoming weaker. Hope so. But good on you. You keep at it, my friend. Over the shoulder, boulder holder. Yeah, Laura was a good one for saying that. Over our shoulder, boulder holder. Amanda, I feel exactly the same. I honestly do. Sorry, folks, these bank holidays are confusing me. I thought it was Monday evening. I thought it was Wednesday. And the reason I thought it was Wednesday is because I was live streaming last night. And for me, that's usually a Tuesday night. So, of course, I thought today was Wednesday. Well, let's hope so, Doc. Let's hope so. Something nice is happening. You're working. What have we here, laddie? Says Rory. Mysterious scribblings, a secret code. No, poems, no less. Poems, everyone. The laddie reckons himself a poet. So I thought it was Wednesday because I was on that stream last night. Well, they do seem to be popular, Skywalker. And I know that because a few months back, I didn't do one because I was up in Glasgow, and a lot of the chat were telling me on the Tuesday that they had really missed the Friday show. So rather than not do one, because my pal doesn't leave until after 10, I thought I'd come on at 10:30, which I did last time. So that's where we are with that. But it's nice to know that people do enjoy them. So there we go. So for me, that first question was very involved, very complex, and very multi-layered. And I still say that one of the solutions, if we had political power, which we don't, had we political power, then the universities would be forced into reducing the humanities, and particularly the social sciences, and reduce the staff levels hugely. And that will reduce the amount of youngsters that can be taken as an undergraduate, because they wouldn't be allowed to increase the staff levels. Choke it off until you can get to a point when you can cut it off entirely. I know that will work, but it's a long-term plan, because a lot of the young women that come from the humanities end up in teacher training. And then the other point of attack would need to be the teacher training colleges. And that would have an immediate impact, because that's where it's fermented. To some extent, that's where it's fermented, but it's there through these courses that these young people attend. So these are the institutions that would need to be very carefully controlled in that one department. Edmund, Aberystwyth Uni has over 1,000 staff, but under 8 thousand students. I've probably butchered that name in my pronunciation. My apologies. Yeah, but these particular courses, Edmund, they come from the humanities. They don't come from any of the other departments or faculties. It doesn't come from philosophy. I can tell you that. It comes from the social sciences. That's what needs to be choked off, metaphorically speaking. Now, that would take time. I understand that. Because you need to clear out also is the teacher training colleges. Because they're filled with these graduates teaching apprentice teachers. Same with the primaries. In Scotland, I don't know about England. It might be slightly different in England, but in Scotland, there are full-time courses that you can enter into straight from school and graduate as a primary school teacher. It's a 5-year course. I know somebody who went on it a long time ago. Those courses will also be saturated with these infected teachers. And those young people will be there for 5 years listening to cultural Marxism and all the other nonsense. And when I brought it up, I didn't really have time to go into it properly like I'm doing now. Now, I say all of that on the back of having been there at Glasgow. And believe it or not, being faced with it firsthand. They were in some of the departments that I touched upon. And I could see how dangerous they were. But of course, one of the disciplines about being an undergraduate, folks, if you've never been one, you've got to learn to keep your mouth closed. And that's what I had to do. I had to not say a word, but watch and see what goes on. Oh, there you go. Edwin is telling me, or us, at Essex you can get a degree in social change. Well, why not give it its proper title and call it social engineering? And if you don't close these things down, if you don't choke them off to begin with, and then eventually close them off totally, this will just continue onward. These children, these young people, their minds will be twisted from when they leave school, but they're already getting it in school as well. Now, I've never had any confidence in campaigns and public complaints about things because I've never seen any of it achieve anything. The only way I think you can achieve anything in those situations, the one we're in, is by having political control over the system that you want to curtail and eventually eradicate. That will work. If you had that power now, that would work. It's long term, certainly, but it would work. you would see it immediately. You made these departments in social sciences. Once you had fired quite a few of the staff, the number of undergrads that they can take in would dramatically be reduced. And so you're choking off the supply of young people going through brainwashing, essentially. Well, that's correct, Doc. The crucial years where things solidify in the mind. I mean, guys like Lenin and Trotsky and Stalin, these guys knew all this stuff way back then. These are the guys that, well, not them necessarily, but that's how far back we're going here with these methods. This is what went on in the Soviet Union. I remember years, well, obviously years ago, but I remember when I was a teenager, you would get the BBC telling you, or some Russian person, some poet, they would say, who's against the regime is just being arrested and he's going to be confined into some mental institution, because that's how they dealt with dissidents. We're almost there. We're almost there. As I said last night, all of this has happened before to us. If you see the connections, and for good or bad, I see these connections. I don't see any difference between Soviet Russia and the EU. I just don't. What is this you're talking about, folks? Steve, I've got a heart button appeared in my chat for some reason. And the trouble with everything that I talk about is the fact that although we now have two political parties, we don't have the numbers. And you can't have the organization until you've got the numbers in the party to create an organization. This all takes time. Oh, there's a new name. David Wilson, son of Larn. If we don't learn from history, we risk repeating it, or some such as we say today. Well, I showed last night, it's been repeated many times, there's nothing new going on. For new to us, obviously, but in terms of history, it's not new. None of it. Different methods, same desired outcome. So I'll do my best, as I've always done, by trying to find solutions to things. For example, I'll give you an example that I put out to get some feedback from Scott's Armagh, and he's passed it to DJ and No Chance. And what is it? Well, it's a simple idea, really, and it's to reverse what goes on in that organisation called Hope Not Hate. We should do that, and where we should target individuals are the individuals who are directly involved in promoting the sexualization of our children in the schools, i.e., secondary school teachers and primary school teachers. If we can objectively show that such and such a teacher is actively engaged, willfully engaged in these lessons, then we should put their name and details on a list and a short explanation as to what they're up to. And why not? And why not? Because you know as well as I do, the general public are not aware of what's going on in the schools. I think it's warranted. I think it's even. I think it has righteous justice attached to it. But I would say that, wouldn't I? And how much would it cost us in terms of time to, although nothing would come of it, but we could send out emails to other organizations with this information attached to it. Using this technology to help us. And you don't even need to leave your computer to do it. Now, there might be some technical reason why that won't work. I don't know. I'm looking forward to any reply I get from the other fellas on it as an idea. So long as we were absolutely rock solid in our information and not rewriting things like quotes, the editorial side of it would need to be very strict so that all you're putting out is hard, factual information. Because I guarantee, and I'm sure you would agree with me, that there will be teachers in these schools who don't want to do this. I know that for a fact. My friend in Glasgow, the good doctor, is a teacher himself. I know there's dissent amongst the teachers. He's one of them. And he runs a faculty. So he's in charge of 3 departments. And they're not happy. That's in the secondary schools. Primary schools would be a harder nut to crack because they are 99% women. Who are naturally more sociable than men. So all the messages that we don't want are reinforced by that uh, bond that women seems so easily to get started. But it would be something, in my view, if such a thing could be put together, if we could get some volunteers who are pretty good with the computer side to gather the info needed. But it is an action. And that's what I mean when I say I try and find solutions. I'm not saying that's an answer. It might not, there might be reasons that I don't know about that will make it unworkable. But off the top of my head, I see it as being something feasible that we could do and would be as legitimate as what is done to people on our side of the fence. Because we're not talking about doxing anyone, we're talking about naming people who are already in the public eye, such as teachers. But it could only be an information endeavour. I was searching for the right word there. It would only be an informational endeavour. There would be no physical side to it. David William, son of Larn, is saying, my partner works in a university and hates what's being allowed, pushing the alphabet people, flags, etc., on the walls, mostly from the staff that were indoctrinated themselves at university. You see my point, folks. There it is, there it. David is supporting what I already know. This problem won't go away quickly. And the only way it can be tackled is through politics, I'm afraid. And I've already explained how you do it. It's simple if you've got the authority to carry it through. It's really simple. But that was after a long time of thinking about that. How can you choke that supply off? And that's how you would do it. Paka is giving us some wisdom here. Don't try to understand women. Women understand women, and they all hate each other. It's a quote from Ted Bundy. Very good, Packer. I like it. Yeah, it's good news, that. I mean, I'm pleased that he has said that. And you'll find that in every university, by the way. I was involved in 4 different departments when I was there as an undergrad. And you had that across the 4 departments. So there you go. Time for a video. Again, I'll let it play a couple of times, folks, so you get the gist of what's going on. It's good news, actually. Well, from our
Western world are canceling Uganda after the president officially signed its anti-LGBTQ bill into law, which would convict those who engage in homosexual acts to life in prison, making it one of the harshest in the world. Politicians including Ted Cruz, Justin Trudeau, and now Joe Biden have condemned it and threatened sanctions, as well as cutting foreign aid to the country as Pride Month begins. What do you think? Countries from around the Western world are canceling Uganda after the president officially signed its anti-LGBTQ bill into law, which would convict those who engage in homosexual acts to life in prison, making it one of the harshest in the world. Politicians including Ted Cruz, Justin Trudeau, and now Joe Biden have condemned it and threatened sanctions, as well as cutting foreign aid to the country as Pride Month begins. What do you think? Countries from around the Western world are canceling Uganda after the president officially signed its anti-LGBTQ bill into law, which would convict those who engage in homosexual acts to life in prison, making it one of the harshest in the world. Politicians including Ted Cruz, Justin Trudeau, and now Joe Biden have condemned it and threatened sanctions, as well as cutting foreign aid to the country as Pride Month begins. What do you think?
There you go. Thomas Boyd had enough excitement. Excellent live stream, John. Thank you, Thomas. Back Uganda, but not the Middle East. Funny that. Yeah, well, there's been a few African nations doing the same thing. They do not like it and will not have any toleration of it. For them, it is straightforward. No, no, no. Edmund, well, surely we should stop importing people from Africa, or would that be racist? Well, I would agree with you, Edmund. The problem is, again, in my view, that there is no real opposition in any of our political institutions. So there is no real cross-examination of. So why are we taking X number of people in from the African continent, Prime Minister? I'd like an answer, please. So there is no opposition to ask simple questions such as that. Now, they cannot claim that all of these people coming from Africa are doctors and nurses. Because even if they are, they still have to upgrade when they get here through our medical training facilities. Because it has always been a fact that, especially a continent like Africa, but it's not the only one, where the universities, the degrees that are given out are of a lower calibre than the universities in the UK. That's just a fact. There is you may not know if you've never been, and I certainly knew nothing about it until I went. There is an international standard that each university is matched against, so that if you want to study abroad and you're still an undergrad and you want to go and study, for example, if I could have went to the US and studied for a year, come back here and finish my degree, but if I had gone to the US, they would have looked at this um, list that every university produces for every undergraduate, where your assessments are logged for the record, so they can see the passes that you've had and the courses that you've done. Yeah, I'm just telling you all that so that you know that that's something that's been going on for well over a century. So it's well established, so that when anyone from quite a lot of countries come here as doctors, they're still not properly qualified to our standards. So they have to then enroll in courses and make up the deficiencies in their theoretical knowledge. So as there is no opposition, you cannot challenge the government on these types of facts. And that applies to all the devolved authorities. It's another part of the problem. The only option you have, and them trying to make it more and more difficult to teach your own children at home, or place them in an educational environment that is being organised, say, by the neighbours. That's the only option. But not everyone will be able to exercise that option. There aren't many options when it comes to this. Because as we all know, too many families, too many men and women living together, where both of them are out breaking their back trying to earn enough to survive on. It's one massive problem on top of another. And that's why you can only take them one at a time. That's where I would start if I had the authority. I'd start with the teacher training and the universities and choke off the supply as far as I could. And then bring in policies so that teachers who are already corrupted into this stuff will not be allowed, by simply removing the materials that are supplied, and just stop the lessons. But that doesn't shut the teacher's mouth permanently. There is still too much left in the hands of the teacher at this point. I know what I put forward isn't what we want to hear, because we all want, including me, want instant answers. We want it to happen yesterday. Well, thank you, David, for supporting me on that. spot on, John, 100%. It's got to start in the schools and universities to get real change. Otherwise, these institutions will continue to pour people out. In fact, it'll get worse. Because the kids coming out of school will be filled with it, whether they go or wherever they go, they'll take it with them. The only children that can be possibly free of this are the ones that will be taught at home or in some small collective that neighbours have got together. And together they can afford some kind of structured education for a group of children. That's the only people that will be able to escape from it. And the mums and dads at home, or not at home, but mums and dads who are out working, breaking their back to bring these children up, they'll be the first ones to be confronted with it. And they won't even have a clue what happened to their child. They just won't know. They won't understand. And there'll be millions and millions of people like that. Because that's where it's headed. That's why it needs to be stopped as quickly as possible. David is adding, year in, year out, it gets worse for my partner, can testify to it. She's at breaking point at times. The madness that goes on in university, taking early retirement to Highlands of Scotland this year. And there you go. This is what happens. If you're the only sane person in an asylum, it's pretty difficult to live with that. This is a line of thinking I haven't changed since I was an undergraduate. And I saw inside the teacher training propaganda camps. So try and think of solutions to whatever really bugs you. If only we could control that flow of poor demented minds. Be a huge step forward. Huge step forward. That would apply to the FE colleges as well. I'll call them FE colleges. Along with these tuppence the universities that were created in Tony Blair's time. You're off, Amanda. So as it's Wednesday tomorrow, yep, I'll get Wednesday tomorrow. I have to say goodnight as I am up early for work. Take care of yourselves. Catch you the next time. 14. Love. Thank you, Amanda. Well, Pack, I'm sorry to say, I have it on good authority. There is almost no escape. As I've mentioned before, there was a number of years ago, there was a murder down at Rossi. And it was one of these people who had come here to enrich us. A wee girl. She was found dead in her underwear, not far from her house. I'm glad you got something from it, Bass Crack Stream yesterday. Well, I've been doing a sort of follow up tonight because of I didn't feel as though well, to put it a better way, each of those questions could have easily have filled a whole stream by itself. And there was a couple of points that I wanted to add to it that I'd made. So I was adding to that tonight. So yes, I enjoyed it myself. And Sensum never disappoints with these questions. So there we go. But I got another short for you. I hope you haven't seen it. I always say that, but I do mean it. I hope you haven't seen it. Have a look at this. This is really, really good for all you dog lovers.
Something beautiful. While it was just having a nice stroll with its owner, it notices a blind person passing by. It then remembers there's a branch blocking the way further down, and it understands what danger it represents for the blind person. It turns around, its owner looking quite confused, and picks up the branch to move it aside. Beautiful. Subscribe to this channel if you think dogs are our best friends. This dog has done something beautiful. While it was just having a nice stroll with its owner, it notices a blind person passing by. It then remembers there's a branch blocking the way further down, and it understands what danger it represents for the blind person. It turns around, its owner looking quite confused, and picks up the branch to move it aside. Beautiful. Subscribe to this channel if you think dogs are our best friends. This dog has done something beautiful. While it was just having a nice stroll with its owner, it notices a blind person passing by. It then remembers there's a branch blocking the way further down, and it understands what danger it represents for the blind person. It turns around, its owner looking quite confused, and picks up the branch to move it aside. Beautiful. Subscribe to this channel if you think dogs are our best friends. This
Rory, my younger daughter never attended university. She did pay her way through acting school in New York, however, and has just been offered a 60K job in California and has no student debt. Well, you won't get many of her in a dozen, I'll tell you that, Rory. Dogs are class. Skywalker. I went to Isle of Lewis in 27 hiking around the coast. Middle if there was nowhere a mobile fish and chip van with a dreadlocked African lady and her son. Pick your island carefully, David. There you go. This is, tell me this is not planned, and I'll certainly not believe you. Good evening, Ludwig. dog is more considerate than its owner. Gavin, good evening. Dogs eat meat. Ban dogs, says Gavin. David is saying Highlands, Argyle move in about 3 weeks, not far from Inverary. Sounds nice. I wish you well on that. Oh, it's on Loch Fyne. Oh, how lovely is that? We haven't been there, folks. It's beautiful. Loch Fyne, yeah. Specialise in salmon. Chinese eat dogs, says Ludwig. Ban. Gonna be difficult to ban the dogs. There's an awful lot of them. Yeah, Loch Fyne, that sounds lovely. Oh, you've been there, Edmund. Yeah, I like those Loch Fyne restaurants. Beautiful. Brings nice memories back. Oh, too long ago, I'm afraid. So there you go, friends. Don't forget about Friday night, though. I'll be starting at 10:30. It's beautiful, says David. I feel blessed, truly. I do. I'll bet. I'll bet. I'll bet. So, has anybody got any questions from last night or tonight? Ludwig, you have no idea how beautiful this place can be. It's beautiful now because the weather's beautiful. I keep meaning to travel the west coast of Scotland. Sounds amazing. It really is. It really is. And if you get a bit of weather, it's even better. Yeah, maybe you could open a channel up when you move, you settle down up there. How about that, David? Get the internet connected and you could do a channel from up there. Loch Fyne, eh? Wouldn't that be something? Brilliant. Think about it. Yeah, you've got a job. That'll keep you busy in your retirement. Steve is saying, when I walked the West Highland Way, it was glorious, no midges too. Brilliant. Brilliant, Steve. When we went up to Drumnadrocha, we were exactly the same. The weather was like this. glorious weather and not a midget to be seen. And we went prepared. You know, with the not a midget to be seen. It was glorious. Linda, why didn't the stupid lady move the stick? She just she just stepped over it. I'm going to be honest, folks. I think that is a pre-prepared video. I think the dog is trained to do that, and it was set up that way. Because there's no reason. If you look very closely at that, what you will see is as that woman with her back to us approaches the oncoming man, she puts her hand up in front of his face and makes a wave. Why would she do that? She sees that he's got a white cane. That's to tell us, the viewer, just in case you don't see the cane being a white cane, this man's blind. I think the whole thing was set up. Good evening, Linda. Now you're lucky, Skywalker. Midges don't bother me. Bother me, I'll tell you that. You agree? Same here, John. Someone has a camera there just at the right moment. Yeah, there is another person involved. There's three of them at work there, the camera person and the two in front of the lens. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying that. I think they're just showing off the dog. It's training. Well, there's Exiled adding a possibility of it would be the signal for the dog to do its thing. She obviously is a dog trainer, says Exile. So she makes the waving motion, the dog sees it, that's the command for it to walk away from her and use its teeth to pick up the branch and move it. There's a lot of work involved in making that, but you know, I'm taking it as constructed, that it's not an impromptu thing. Because you've always got to ask yourself with these things, who's operating the either the phone or the camera, so that I can see this. So when you see two people in front of the lens, there'll be a third person behind. And that's where you've got to be careful that you're not watching something that has been deliberately constructed to leave a particular impression with the viewer. Oh yeah, I mean, it doesn't take away from the dog, Doc, and that's my point. It doesn't take away anything from the dog, because the dog has to learn a lot there. Because he's walking beside her, slightly behind her. So he's already been trained to do that without a leash. And then he has learned this trick. And when he gets that signal, he is then to about turn and move the branch. And it all has to be done in a certain time frame. So I'm not taking away from the dog at all. It adds, actually, when you consider that the dog has been trained to do that. So Did I say hello, Anglo? I don't think I did. Hello, Anglo. Bit late, I suppose. Rory, I had a little trouble understanding your accent just then, John. Were you talking about midges? Midges. MIDGES. Or midgets. No. Midges. I'm telling you, Rory, if it wasn't for those midges, Scotland would be paradise when the weather is like today. The midges just. Campfire's the answer. You're right. Likewise, Doc. I'm just saying, it doesn't take a damn thing away from that dog, and it's very effective. If you don't look too closely, it's effective, and there's no harm done. If it's an advert for that lady's channel, why not? It's a good way to show it. Again, I wouldn't doubt you, Ludwig. I've known many dogs display extrasensory perceptions, done things that defy explanation. Beautiful creatures, they are indeed. They are indeed. There's quite a few people around here who've got dogs, and you see them out walking. Midget hunting. Yeah, some dogs are absolutely gorgeous. And very affectionate creatures, like cats. They've been domesticated. Who knows? Well, right back as far as Egypt times, we know about cats. They became a dynasty in their own right. The cats. Well, there's a downside. Steve's right in there with a downside. Not when they're crapping on your living room carpet, though. No, I know. Well, I'll add in. Not when they're marking out their territory all over your house by urinating in corners and skirting boards and even doors. Because that's what they do. I forgot about that. Or trying to shag your leg. Absolutely. Yeah. But we wouldn't be without them. We wouldn't be without them. The world would be a cold and silent place without the animals. Linda saying there is a bloody dory whose house blocks onto a reserve, always sticking her nose in if your dog is off the lead, and in a fenced in pitch. Pain in the proverbial. Obviously, I'm not acquainted with the term dory. You get a bad neighbour and it can be a nightmare. Mannequin is giving me a time check here. And there is oops. And there's Steve in with his clocks and ring-a-ding-ding. Thank you, Steve. So, thank you, Skywalker. Dogs are good to keep the Allen snack bars away. The more vicious, the better, says Exile. Okay, I'm going to wind up at this point, folks, as I know I'm getting a telephone call. My dog shagged my priest's leg when he came round to visit. That was an embarrassing moment. Yeah, even more so. What he's not telling us, Rory, here is that the priest enjoyed it. Travel M. Every other person seems to have a dog nowadays. Some people let their dogs mess all over the pavements. If they bag it up, chuck it on the ground, plus incessant barking in the back gardens. Well, none of that's pleasant, of course, Treble M, and that's irresponsible owners. Can't blame the dogs. Just the same as children. You get badly behaved children, it's not the child's fault, it's the way it's been brought up. Anyway, I'll bring on the music, Charlotte. Yeah, I'll bring on the music. So that was an interesting stream tonight, for me anyway. I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you on Thursday, hopefully. And thanks for the moderators. And thank all of you for coming, as always. And I'll speak to you soon. And as always, adios, au revoir, cheerio, and until Thursday evening, bye for now. Please join us as a regular, David. It was a pleasure to have your company here. Please sub and give the channel a like, if you wouldn't mind. All helps, they tell me. So, I'll start the music up and I'll see you all Thursday night, 9 o'clock. Enjoy the music.
Silently the snow falls, paints a winter scene, swiftly spreads the dark rim, hides the fading autumn green. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, conjure friendships dear to me. Lightly now the breeze flows, disturbing more than just the leaves. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow. Patiently the love grows, lifts the weary heart, Gently now she holds me.
Hi there, Robert. Nice to see you.
Melts two worlds once apart. Moonbeams brush the dark wood. Usher dreams of you and me. Softly then the breeze blows, disturbing more than just the trees.
All together now.
But love's much more
So much more
than we can know.
than we can ever possibly do.
We are one small glow
But an important glow.
in the eternal flow. Melodies of long ago, songs of innocence, harmonies to soothe the soul, past of consequence. Moonbeams brush the dark wood, awakening joys of you and me. Silently the snow falls, bringing winter symphony. But we're much
So
more
much more
than we can know.
than we can ever possibly do.
We are one small glow
But an important glow
in the eternal flow. But life's much more than we can know. We are one small glow in the eternal flow.
So you take care, folks, and I'll speak to you all real soon. And thanks again for being here. And hopefully the good weather will continue. Until Thursday night then, bye just now.